Hello, Revodeity here again for video 4, disassembling the V3, not the V4 Revomaze, as a lot of you are quick to point out pretty quickly. Thank you, puzzling community. But disassembling and reassembling the V3 Revomaze. So after this, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do for subsequent videos. I talked about doing a cleaning video, but I don't know how much fun that would be or interesting. I've worked on speed solve videos before. I know that I'm planning an introspective, another series where I'm going to be doing a rating of different Revomazes, comparing the difficulty versus enjoyability. Still working on trying to afford that purple somehow, but plotting them out here, doing a review of each Revomaze. Maybe as part of that, I'll do try and do my speed solve or fastest time of each one. And I know I plan on getting the Discord community involved with this and getting them the template presentation to have you guys submit your difficulty or your rankings as well. So I think that'll be coming up soon. But if there's anything else you want to see in upcoming videos, just let me know, comment, or reach out to me on Discord or through email. So with that said, we'll go ahead and jump into it. So with the V1 Revomaze, there is a lot of different varieties for the core type. So there was like nickel plated, there's pure brass, there's gold plated. With the V3, it's a lot more standardized. So from different puzzle to puzzle, you'll see that there's little variation. So the setup's pretty much the same, and that's done on purpose to kind of help automate it. So it's a stainless steel core. That's kind of this first piece here. Then the maze itself is actually a brass piece, which we'll see later. So the intent is that when they're machining this, they could just do the machining in-house, and also, they just machine this little portion of the maze. They don't have to machine the entire thing or scrap the entire thing if there's a machining error or defect in the maze. So whether, there's been a lot of questions, which one's better, V1 or V3, and honestly, it's really to the preference of the solver. Some people like V1's better. They like, when they remove the core, that it's all one piece. The nickel plating is a bit brighter. It's a little bit smoother when you solve, in my opinion. The V3, I like the look of it better. I like the multi-piece, I like the contrast to the brass. It does feel a little bit rougher to me. The pin doesn't travel as smooth as nickel plating, but some people can't even tell the difference. So, all in all, there's really not much of a difference. But V3, there are slight tweaks to the maze, but overall, it's typically the same maze. So again, like with the V1, when you solve it, you're ready to remove the core. You'll have the dot on the sleeve lined up with the dot on the core here. And again, you want to turn it toward the label's down, and then at this point you can't remove it typically, so you may have to give it a couple smacks to kind of get that pin to fall down, and now it comes out. Now with the V1, how I said earlier, is you have to I recommend turning it 90 degrees and pulling out. With this one, there's only one pin, and that's now falling from the sleeve into the core, so it's now down. So when I pull this straight out, I'm not going to lose a pin. So the V1, there are two pins, one for the maze and one down here for the draw. So there's only one pin for the maze, and that's it. So the draw, the second part, is actually held together by a set screw, a little grub screw that we'll look at later. So when you solve it, you can just pull it straight out. So now again, kind of like with the V1, I'm going to cover up most of the maze, so there's only going to be just a little bit portion of this blue Revomaze exposed. Okay, so now that the core is removed, similar to the V1, there's the pin here and the orientation matter. So I'll go ahead and get the pin out. So again, with the pin, it's very similar to the V1 in that there's a rounded end. Let's go ahead and try and get this closer. Try and put my finger behind it. Yeah, so rounded end, and that's the end that's contacting the maze. And then this end is the one that's kind of facing up. And you'll see here, that's that little nub for machining. So this one's pretty easy to tell which one's going to be contacting the maze and which one's not. So obviously we don't have this nub contact in the maze. So when you reassemble, you want to make sure that the rounded end is inserted down. So then the flat part, the little nub, is pointing up, because when you put this back in, this will go into the sleeves, and the round part's what's going to be contacting the maze. So we're going to take that back out. And on the other side, for the draw, where there would be the second pin for the V1, you'll look over, and now you'll see that there's actually a hole for this grub screw right there. I'll try and get in a little close. So there's been a lot of debate's not the right word, but fun discussion on how to get out this grub screw. So I had a lot of trouble with just using a regular Allen wrench. I think it's a 1.5 millimeter. It's just the Allen key that I was using was really worn down. I was recommended to get the Wera hex driver here. I thought it wasn't going to make a difference. And sure enough, when I bought it, it almost immediately worked. So, foot, meat, mouth. On the end here, this is really refined and machined well, and there's actually even a slight taper. So that really helps when you put it in there and get a grip. So this is definitely a lot better than the Allen key, and this is machined a lot than those, bulk Allen keys you get, because those are pretty worn down. So this one's going to work a lot better. So I'll go ahead and put it in here, and this will take out the set screw. So, and if you're doing this for the first time and you're kind of nervous, you could use a little bit of permanent marker and just make little indentations to kind of line things up. That permanent marker will come off pretty easy with isopropanol, so you don't have to worry about leaving a permanent mark on your Revomaze. So you'll take this out, and again, when you disassemble, open in a a clear table or an area, because there's loose parts that tend to fall off, so you don't want to lose them. So I'm taking this out so I can access the certificate in here. So once this is, pretty loose, then this portion comes out here, and I don't want to take it out. I'm trying to be careful because I don't expose the maze. So gently pull this out, and then you'll see here, this is the head here of the sleeve, and this brass part's the maze, and this could actually come out, and you'll see I've already taken the certificate out. But you'll see here, this is the core has a hole machined into it on one side. There's a hole in the other. So you got to kind of be careful, make sure you want to get the right orientation when you put it back together. So that's the disassembly. We'll kind of set it down and we'll pick up again for the reassembly. Okay, so the key to reassembling it is to make sure you pay attention to the indentation on the sleeve, because this is key to getting the maze in proper alignment. Because if you have it rotated around, then when you have the dots lined up here, that doesn't mean it's necessarily solved. You're going to be out of sync to where it's going to be 180 degrees out of rotation. So this needs to be in the proper orientation. There's also, a little washer here you got to be careful to keep as well. So again, what I'll do is I'll put this on and try and get this in the right orientation here. Kind of adjust that in. And it's a little bit offset, I think just a little bit to the left of the actual indentation here. And you can kind of tell if it's lined up properly, because when you start screwing this in, if it doesn't line up or if it doesn't go in all the way, then you could tell you don't have it lined up properly. So like right now, it's not going in all the way, so I need to shift it around a little bit there. So I had to twist it to the right a bit. And there we go. Now I could start screwing it in again. So I didn't have it aligned properly. Okay. Now don't do it too tight, because then you risk stripping it or having other problems later. So again, before you reassemble it, check to make sure you have it, installed properly. So here's the dot here again, with the dot on the sleeve here. They match up. The sticker's down here to pull it out. So you'll see that that is lined up top, so the pin to fall down. So that means we're in the correct orientation. So at this point here, this is where I'll put the pin in. Again, the round side, I will insert it down. So then the side that I'm looking at has a little nub or the chamfers on it. So the round side is down. And then at this point, I'll usually have, I'll put in the right, or the orientation as it is now, to where the dot is down. And I'll insert it, and then I'll flip it over. So I'll go ahead and pause this to get to the spoiler-free portion. Okay, so I've inserted it, and I've got the dots lined up, and it's still sliding a bit. So then, kind of like we did before, with my right hand, I'm going to kind of hold it and get those dots lined up, and then give it a couple smacks for the pin to fall down from the core down into the sleeve. So we'll get it lined up, a couple smacks, And this is kind of a hard part because you need to get it lined up, so you got to hold it tight with your right hand and give it a couple smacks. I think I ought to be a professional at it by now. Give it a couple more. Okay. So you could tell when it's lined up properly because you can't pull it out. So then you have to twist it back in. It'll go in through the maze again. So that's how you reassemble the V3 Revomaze. And again, these are all pretty standardized. So with the gray V3, and then when they start manufacturing some of the copper V3s or others like that, it's going to have kind of the same setup. So it's going to be pretty standardized to help manufacturing, since they're doing a lot of these machinings for the mazes in-house. So hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments what future videos you want to see next.